let's just get perfect. All right, so you gotta let me share up here in if you can, Angelo. All right, there we go. Cool. So let's jump over to DXY. Let's just talk about this for a second. So I cover this every weekend and I explain why we analyze DXY every week. And it's pretty much just the US dollar strength, right? We're seeing what the US dollar is doing. And for those of you that don't know, the dollar makes up for most of trade, 80% of all trade in the Forex market. And that's a lot of weight to have, So usually when you see large movement on the dollar, a lot of the market, especially the major pairs, are going to follow. So it's just a good idea to see what the dollar's doing, see what it's up to. Is it trending? Is it moving sideways? And then we can just make better ideas moving forward onto other pairs. Okay, so let's just start here on the daily time frame. And what we want to gather from the daily time frame is simply the trend. I mean, we're aware of certain areas, 93.8 here is resistance, obviously. 91.5 is a huge monthly level. But other than that, we're just grabbing the trend. So we've seen that this is probably the most key level here, our monthly. And generally, as we've been rejecting off of it, seeing lower highs below it, we're bearish. Higher lows above it, we're bullish. We've seen that multiple times. And it's followed that pretty well. So it's respected this zone pretty well in the past. So no different here. We broke above, we saw a higher low, and then normal characteristics of a bullish trend: higher highs, higher lows, higher highs, higher lows, and so on and so on. So definitely bullish, right? Definitely bullish. Even though we have seen a pretty large drop off on the 4-hour, but we're going to get to that in a second. But just based on this chart, you guys should pretty much be able to see how, as long as we're above 91.5, as long as we're forming higher highs and higher lows, we're basically bullish here on the dollar. Okay, so let's move over to the 4-hour. Now, that may not be true, obviously, on the 4-hour. The 4-hour can be bearish while the daily is still bullish. That's okay. Just for the swing trading approach, these are the timeframes that we implement on a week-to-week basis, okay? So I like to be aware of that daily trend because, if a daily move does, start to come into play here and we see that type of volume step in, you just want to make sure you're on the right side of it. It's another level of probability for your trade, right? Because you're lining all these different trends up and you're trying to line your trade up with that. So it'll just be more probable trade if you're doing it that way. At least that's what I found through the swing trading strategy. Okay, so let's talk about this 4-hour trend for a second. We know that price action was in a prior range. We actually hit the 93.8 level, rejected pretty hard. But if you just zoom out, you can see that price action fell back into this area too, right? And we're still pretty much safe, but definitely 4-hour bearish. So there's really only two ways this could go now. Either it's going to continue with the 4-hour bearish trend and push down towards this monthly, in which case we'll reanalyze, consider new opportunities at that level, as this is a significant move. And if it does continue to break, we definitely want to make sure we're, just aware of that, right? A bearish dollar, if it breaks this level, that could be a lot of volume that kind of spreads over to other pairs, and we'll see the market, moving pretty crazy like we just saw this past week. Okay, so that's potential, definite potential there as we just keep falling. Or this 92 level right here, where we've seen previous support, steps in, right? And we see price action reverse there, and it starts consolidating again, showing us that, okay, it's still pretty much bullish. It was just making a, pullback, normal correction, still pretty much forming good structure. And then we'll, we'll see if this continues higher, and then we'll reanalyze from that point. But yeah, so dollar's been falling. We'll see if it continues this week or if it's kind of reversed. Pretty straightforward. So yeah, we'll see. Let's move over to AU. First actual tradable pair. Let's go to the daily time frame, grab that trend. So what's interesting here is we're definitely bearish. We were consolidating in this area for a while. It was a high volume range. We finally broke that once we moved through 0.76, this weekly zone. We broke lower, got the lower high. Price action tanked, and gave us great characteristics of a bearish trend: lower lows, lower highs, lower lows. But this past week, huge rally, right? Nice bullish movement through these MAs, through this minor range that we saw, and then also through this resistance level at 0.74. So that's pretty interesting, right? Huge amount of bullish volume, but until we see a higher low above 0.74, which is technically a break of these lower highs here, we can't confirm this as a transition yet, but it's close. It's looking like that, right? So if price action did fall right back down, that would be a fake out, right? That's why we want to see that higher low to confirm that we're now forming structure. It's now forming higher lows, higher highs, and it's moving in a bullish trend. So right now it's a little too early. So it still is technically overall bearish, but let's move to the 4-hour. Talk about this for a second, because clearly there's more information here that we need. Okay, so here's that move. Nice 4-hour bullish trend. Okay, broke through this range. Here's a closer visual of that, 0.74 as well. So we're significantly above that level. Now we have the opportunity for a pullback. This is where we want to see that higher low, which would confirm this 4-hour trend and also the daily as a transition. So this could be a huge move if we see a nice higher low and then nice bullish setups to then enter on. So we're going to be patient with this one. We're going to let it play out, because again, this could be a daily move, right? If this is going to continue and start the transition of the daily trend, we could really be targeting quite high, potentially up to this weekly level, 0.76. Okay, so a good amount of pips. We'll just let this one play out. We're going to be patient on it, but there's potential here. Definitely pretty big potential. All right, so let's talk about the opposite of that, right? Let's say price action fakes out here, falls back down, doesn't give us the higher low, falls back into this range. We would then be looking for lower highs with good momentum, conviction to then, enter short on. And then we would comfortably be, bearish again. Just if we see that lower high below 0.74, that's really what would confirm this. And yeah, we'll be looking at shorts. So yeah, that's AU. But obviously this higher low is closer to happening as we just broke this resistance. It's coming back to support. And that's why it's just closer to happening than this bearish opportunity. So we'll watch this one. Pretty interesting on AU. Let's move over to AJ. It's going to resemble AU to an extent. It is extended, pretty overextended as well. And we did just break key resistance levels, end of range. But let's just go to the trend real quick from the daily. Let's grab that. Same thing as we saw in AU, large volume consolidation, nice break, transition of this weekly at 83.25, lower highs leading up to that point, finally broke. Then we saw some lower lows, lower highs, and definite bearish trend, right? And this was actually an expanding pattern too. It looked like just the volume was increasing as this pattern was forming, right? So huge shoot to the downside, hit 79, rejected pretty hard, and we've been bullish since then. But we've spotted the same exact thing as we saw in AU, right? Too early to call it a transition. We need to see more structure formation, higher lows, and just more of a presence in this upper zone here. Okay, so still technically bearish on the daily. Let's go to the 4-hour and talk about this one a little more. Let's save that. All right, so here was that pattern, high volume pattern, moving a little sideways in here, huge bearish volume there. This was at 79 support level that we saw price action kind of react at, came right back up, blew through a minor level right here, and then here at 80.75. So, I mean, any one of you guys that has been through the course and knows price action, you guys should be able to identify that this is a pretty overextended bit of price action here, right? This rally is pretty overextended. So that means we really want to see either a pattern, some sort of consolidation, a flag would be nice, but more importantly, just structure, something to say that, okay, price action is holding at this level. We want to see higher lows. We want to see this continue to the upside. And that would be this right here, right? Really just want to be patient on this. You're not going to buy at the high. We just broke. We need to see something that's going to say, all right, this is going to continue. We're now off on a new path here for price action, and we're headed to the upside. So this would be nice, higher low here. And I honestly would consider a little bit lower depending on the pattern, but really you just want to stay above this level here, 81.5. Okay, as you look to the left, this was a huge range as well. So if it does fall back below that, we could just be consolidating for a while, and then we'll pretty much have the same play where we'll need to see that higher low, and then we could enter long on that. But we'll just wait patiently on this one. AU is probably the better play this week. It just seems like it has more of a more confirmations, more confluence than this. This will probably take a little more time. But yeah, this is one setup. If it were to go bearish, again, it could just fall back into this range and kind of just flatline for a little while. And then we've covered in depth how to trade ranges. If you're comfortable trading a range like this in here, taking shorts here, taking buys here, that's up to you. I don't recommend that because it's not really trend trading. You're just banking on one support level, one resistance level. You can do it. Some people make it work. I always like to wait for the true break. So if you're trading a range, that would mean a lower high below, break of support, retest, drop. Or if you're looking to play the range and wait for it to break bullish, you need to wait for the higher low. So break above, pull back higher low, then continuation. Okay, so that's just kind of the risk here. If it does fall lower, we'll have to see how it reacts in this level before we can, make an accurate analysis. But yeah, these are the two setups for AJ. So let's move over to UJ. This one's looking pretty decent. It really just depends on how it reacts at the zone. Let's go to the daily time frame first. See how this thing's been forming. Okay, overall pretty bullish, right? Pretty bullish up until this point where we've been in large pattern and or range, as you could describe it, but overall bullish. Let's now go to the 4 hour. Zoom out a little bit. All right. So again, pretty large pattern. This one's been, it's been interesting because the volume that's been coming into this pair has kind of been sending it past the main pivot point, but still respecting. So like, let me explain for a second. So 110 is obviously the major level, and you can see all these attempts to push higher all the way up to here. So this level really ranges from like 110 flat to 110.5. There's just a ton of reaction in here from price action over and over again. Every time we've entered this zone, price action's throwing wicks to both sides, huge rejection, huge volume is coming out of this area. So it's just been tricky. It's been tricky to kind of forecast a break higher, but very easy to kind of see a short opportunity. But, again, all this consolidation is just making it somewhat difficult to find some entries. It just shows that price action is not really ready yet to make a move. Just kind of going just choppy. So, we got a pattern within a pattern. That's never a great sign. But we do have some life coming out of price action right now, right? The bears are stepping in. We did get a nice rejection. This is the highest attempt yet out of this little bit of consolidation, right up at 110.25. Sharp reversal, came right back down, and it actually fell through 110. So now it looks like it has the potential to actually break lower, and that this is the real break. But we're going to wait for this to kind of reject this minor level right here, 109.85. Just want to see price action curve back down, give us some strong bearish setups that we can enter short on, and we'll simply target down towards 109.15. Maybe it will play it lower, but this is really what we're looking at right now. Just want to see this reverse, shoot lower, and then catch a nice simple trade down towards support. Okay, if this doesn't play out, price action can technically pull back and still consolidate before, attempting this break lower again. Or if it breaks higher through 110, through 110.25, that's where we need to see the higher low. And just to show you guys why I chose this level, 110.25, because price action's really struggled to form a higher low above that level. We've had multiple attempts, 1, 2, 3, multiple attempts, but all have failed to give us that higher low. This was the closest it came, was right here, right? And then it failed, completely failed. The MAs held it. Sad. Double wicks to the upside and then dumped. So that's what we're waiting for over here. That would give me a lot of confidence in a nice long opportunity here on UJ. And maybe we could even target all the way up towards 111.5. We'll see. We will see. But yeah, that's UJ for now. Just waiting for this choppiness to end. All right, let's move on to EJ. This one's looking pretty good. Looks a lot like AJ, but a little more room to run, more room to form structure. It's not as restricted on this, so this should be a good one this week. But let's jump to the daily real quick. We want to just assess the trend, right? What's price action doing? It's been pretty much bearish. We had a nice reversal up here at the weekly. Price action dropped lower. Here's that lower high. Bearish variations continuing the trend to the downside. So pretty nice. It's been bearish for a while. And then just like we saw on a lot of the JPY pairs, this thing has been pushing up, right? We saw a nice bearish channel on a lot of those pairs, and then a huge bullish volume, seeming to break that. So if this is the true break, it'll form a higher low, right? We want to see that higher low above 130. We'll wait for it. We're in no rush. But if this is a fake out, it's going to pull right back through 130. So we're waiting to see which way it goes. Okay, but overall bearish. Could be bullish here if this does confirm. So let's see the 4-hour. Take a closer look at that. Zoom out a little bit. There's a look at that channel. Nice channel, good volume, little bit of consolidation, some patterns in there, but pretty good. Some awesome trades happen in that. But let's talk about now, right? Huge reversal, price action pushed up, nice higher low that confirmed this early transition on the 4-hour. Can you guys see that? This was the lower high here, right? Price action pushed above that significantly, broke this level, gave us the higher low, and then continued. That's the transition. That's beautiful, right? That's what we're looking for right here on the daily now to confirm that. So this could be an even larger move, in theory than this, more pips at least. So that's why we always try and ride the trend. It's really nice to, kind of have that confirmation backing your trade, So nice rally there. We broke multiple levels, 130 included. Now we're waiting for the pullback. It's pulling back now. Nice MA pullback. I want to see maybe a pattern, a little bit of consolidation, then an MA cross, nice bullish variations, and that would be a trade I'd be pretty comfortable taking. Somewhere in here, pulls back, forms some sort of pattern, right? Whatever. Nice entry there, and then we're targeting higher. Could be a good trade on that one. Might be able to extend it even higher again, because this would be a daily transition. So we'd probably jump up to the daily time frame and get a secondary target up there. That'd be really nice. So yeah, closer to happening. This bullish scenario is definitely closer to happening than this one, this short scenario, where we would need price action to pull back through 130, significant amount, pull back, give us that lower high, and then we could consider shorts at that point, down towards support levels, maybe lower, we'll see. But yeah, that's a secondary trade. Price action's got to completely break 130, and then we'll see what happens. So EJ is looking good, guys. This one's pretty nice. I like to see that structure form and get in on EJ this week. That'd be a good one. All right, so that is not the right pair. That was a trade.
It's like, what is that?
Yeah, what is that? That's not part of your analysis. That was a trade review from last week, guys. Actually, you should check that YouTube video out. Pretty interesting.
Oh yeah.
All right, so we're gonna wrap this up with gold. I know every time everyone's like, gold, where's gold? Gold sucks right now, guys. Sorry, but it's just not doing good. We had an opportunity. We got excited a couple weeks ago, right? We saw this consolidation finally was ending with this huge volume. We saw this wick. We thought we were going to get maybe a break and retest. Didn't happen. This thing got pushed off a cliff. I don't know, man. Huge volume. Shot lower, pulled back. We got excited again. Maybe this was the pullback. We saw some consolidation. This was it. This was a lower high. Nope, completely failed. Pushed higher back into consolidation. So gold's been a pain in the ass. It really has been. I mean, unless you guys had a sniper entry there, great entry. Congrats. That was phenomenal. Maybe if you sniped it on the retrace, good job there too. But yeah, we're back within a range. 1825 is resistance, our weekly zone, and then the infamous 1800 level that we've depended on so many times. Failed us, unfortunately. So yeah, we're back within that range, guys. If you want to trade the range, go for it. It is definitely high volume. That's a 250 pip spread on these two levels. So have fun with that. But I always recommend trading the trend. So that means higher lows above 1825 to buy, lower highs below 1800 to short. Sometimes it's like that, guys. Sometimes one pair will be kind of on the bench for weeks on end, and then we'll switch off. But that's the market, right? That's why we cover so many pairs. There's a lot of other opportunities out here. But yeah, that's it. That's all I got for you guys. Covered DXY, AU, AJ, UJ, EJ, not EuroSIF, but gold. And you guys can find those analyses in Discord and Telegram. Man, they're active all week. They're the active charts that I was talking about in the beginning. And yeah, so compare it to your analysis, do whatever you got to do. They're pretty useful. And yeah, so that's all I got for you guys. I'm going to pass it off to Angelo. We'll see what he's looking at for the week ahead.
Yeah, good stuff with the analysis. Like Nick said in the beginning, if any of you guys have questions about any of the pairs that were covered, feel free to ask in the chat. The session is for you guys. We're just going over all of our ideas for the week. So if any of you guys even have ideas, whether they be conflicting ideas or whatever, let us know in the chat what you guys think. So
yeah,
I'm going to get into it. I'll go with NZD USD first. Let's take a look at DXY just to get started. So last week, DXY last week was pretty much the only one of the only pairs that went like directly according to my analysis. And unfortunately, we don't trade DXY. Now we had given a trade last week on GJ. It did hit stops. I'm gonna go over that in a second. It happens. The dollar fell just as expected. If we come up to the 4-hour time frame, we had our main weekly level that we had placed on last week's call up here based on this resistance. We had that nice rejection the previous week, so I was anticipating it to fall lower back into the support level right there, which it had done. So let's go down now to a lower time frame and take a look. So down to the lower time frame, we clearly see on the 4-hour that we had this break of structure right here. So we're in a bit of an uptrend, making highs and higher lows, and then we form this higher low right here that broke. We were expecting a retest and then head lower and then just starts to continue to make this new trend. So that's pretty much what happened last week. We started to fall to the downside. Looking at it now, we are back. If we bump back up to the weekly time frame, you can tell that we're now back into this zone where price previously grabbed a ton of buyers from and then just shot back to the upside. I'm going to actually just take this off. So we do want to be careful in this area. Price could definitely reverse on us pretty easily. And even look how last week's final candle closed with this wick right here. So what this is telling me is that sellers are trying to step into this zone and they're already seeing a ton of rejection coming down now to the 4-hour time frame. You know, what is that in this 4-hour time frame? Well, the 4-hour is just very clearly forming this downward trend right now, right? So we're forming these lower lows, these lower highs. This isn't anything too crazy going on right now. If anything, at a minimum, we would have to break this minor level here, this minor lower high that just formed to really start to see this thing push back to the upside. So overall, DXY still is in a downtrend, but I'm just being weary of this zone that we are in. So price could either do one of two things right now. It's going to most likely come up and retest this 92,250 area. And then we're either going to head back to the downside or we're going to do a little break and retest. And then this thing is going to shoot to the upside and start to make its move back to this other weekly zone. So that's my outlook right now with DXY. We're just keeping in mind that it could be bearish this week. So coming on to NU, this was last week's analysis on NU. Let's just go ahead and clear all of this up because we're going to come up with a new idea now. Let's just come to the weekly. The weekly, we still have our two main levels. I'm just going to go ahead and color these a little bit differently. So we still have our two main levels of support and resistance right here. We've got our lower level at 68,900 around that area. We've got our upper level at 73,100 up in this area. So definitely in the middle of these two zones, sort of stuck in like consolidation. And then last week, what we saw was price came down to test this area, followed it up with a very quick, or very strong bullish candle back to the upside. So after that, we were expecting price to continue to move higher based on this sort of reaction to the zone. And now what we can really see is price will most likely continue to move back to these highs right now. There's not much stopping it from getting there. So let's just make our way down now to a lower time frame, see how we could potentially take advantage of this. Looking left, it certainly got very choppy here at the bottom, but we can see that price had these swings low, these swings lower and lower over and over again. Then we actually started to have a little bit of a transition here to the upside, which we were covering. And then ultimately, this thing ended up just bottoming out and retesting this lower zone right here. So that was a little bit deceiving, this transition that went down. We were covering this and actually got in on a little move because we had this little transition. We had the first higher low form. We had entered here. And then pretty much after this first push up and then down. We got taken at break even. And then this thing just tanked to the downside, as you can see now. But look where we're currently at. This is pretty ugly. You know, it's just kind of pushed to the upside. We have this one little higher low. We have the break, didn't even retest this previous level. Now we're all the way up here. So what would I want to see, considering looking at the area that it's at resistance right now. And then we look at all these previous high points pretty much right here. We move this down a little bit. So I'm basing this off of this level of resistance, this level, this level, this level right here. So ideally what we want to see on NU is some sort of pullback to this area. And then that's when we'll start to look for our next buy, because we don't want to buy up here. There's literally hundreds of pips that this thing could move. Actually hundreds of pips. There are 70 pips that this thing could move to the downside before finding support. So this is where we really want to get in on this, and we could do the whole thing where we fib it and everything like that, see where that is based on currently. And if this thing does inch a little bit higher, as we see 38.2s there, we don't necessarily want to place our fibs for those that really know how to use them or have used them. You know, you want to kind of wait until you get a combination up here, you get some sort of pullback. Right now, it's just kind of heading higher and higher. There is this like bearish engulfing going on right now. So maybe this is the time when it's going to make that 70 pip move, 50 pip move to this area, but no trades on this. So NU is going to be at the pretty much the bottom of my watch list. Let's go to GJ next. This is going to be an interesting idea, but we have to wait for this to develop. I don't want to get ahead of ourselves, but pretty much last week we got stopped on this one, and I don't want to chase this trade, but I still believe that this thing could reverse and head to the downside. Let's just go over why. Pretty much on the weekly time frame, we're seeing these swings lower. We had been in an uptrend, and then now we're just moving to the downside. So we broke support here, retested it, broke this level. Now we're back up here, kind of retesting this zone again. Again, last week, I didn't expect this to move up as much as it did. I expected it to stay below this resistance level, but it did move up a bit higher. But we're still in this lower high area. This is like definitely an area where we could see a lower high in this weekly trend and then turn and retest this 148.550 area. So let's just go down to the 4 hour, because the 4 hour, without looking kind of over here, the 4 hour is very clearly in an uptrend. It's swinging higher, these higher highs, higher low. Then it broke this level, ultimately making a new high, retesting as a higher low. So this is a very healthy kind of 4 hour trend going on right now. We have this level that formed as resistance, broke, retested, pushed to the upside. Now we just retested this level again. But look how last week closed very bearish. And then just considering the weekly, how I'm anticipating maybe for it to reverse, you know, on the weekly time frame. And just looking at this again, I don't love to use trend lines, but this thing is definitely trending to the downside, and it's right in the zone where it could reverse at. So with all this in mind, you know, what would I want to see for me to start taking trades? There'd have to be a lot of progression to happen on this to start to actually short it. First of all, we're entirely in an uptrend right now. You know, the uptrend would have to break. So this would have to break momentum. I'm not going to leave that on there, but that would have to break momentum, and then it would have to form some sort of lower high. Now we want to be mindful of this orange zone. I have this based on support right here. We have support here. We have support here. Look how it took off from this level here, took off from this level here, and took off from this level here. And then it rejected this area as well. So this is definitely an area where prices is going to find some sellers and buyers at. And that's why I'm kind of weary. I don't want to sell this before we get past this zone, this 151.550. You know, I want to sell it before we get past this. I want to wait for some sort of retest, but like of this area. So I want it to break, retest this zone. That's when I'll then look to short this. And remember, up on the weekly, we have the weekly level all the way down here. It's about 280 pips away. So this would be like a true kind of swing trade. And of course, it wouldn't just go right down to this area. We probably would see something along the lines of this. Boom. So yeah, this is most likely, you know, what we would see. We would see some lower highs being made, lower lows being made, retesting his previous area. So look out for this on GJ. This isn't, you know, I don't normally love to do this because a lot needs to happen for this to go down. But you know, I am eyeing this up based on the weekly, based on where we're at. You know, I can't really see this thing just pushing much higher. And if it does, I mean, so be it. Then we'll just adjust and pretty much adapt to it when that happens. So let's go to Youssef next. We also have this one mapped out. The only things that I'm looking at on the weekly time frame on this one are what are our resistance levels, which I mean to do that. We have our upper resistance level up here at 92,500. We've got our lower level down here at 90,400, 90,500 in that area. So we're in the middle of this zone right now. We're kind of in the middle of like no man's land. And last week formed this inverted hammer candle. So this candle is a reversal candle. We had the bearish candle before it. So I'm assuming now we could see a push to the upside, even though we are in a downtrend, you know, on this weekly time frame. We clearly see we broke the support, retested as resistance, and that was that large rejection. So I'm just kind of weary on that idea, but I'm always just reading price action on the weekly to try to give me, you know, what to do, like help me make my decision for this week. But we still have to see, we're below the resistance here. So coming to the 4-hour time frame, 4-hour, things have just been super choppy on this one. You don't even need to zoom out that much. But the main thing that I'm seeing here are these consecutive lower highs that are forming right here. So we have this area, we don't break this level. So this level has been holding pretty much ever since it came above here, August 6th. So this thing's been holding for pretty much a month now. So if it gets below here, it's gonna easily push to the downside. So we need to be wary of this level, this 91,200 level. Right now we're still above it. So pretty much if price manages to get below here, we're just gonna wait for that first lower high. Now on the flip side, you know, to take buys on this, I'm just not necessarily in love with the idea. But if you were to take buys, the best case scenario would be to take buys off of this 91.2 zone. So see how it's already wicking this area, already showing us price is probably going to reverse and move up to this resistance level. Just based on how this is showing us, this would be the best time to get in. Say you had a more buying bias on this one, buyer's bias, then you would get in after these wicks form and then you try to ride this thing up. Really depends how much you're weighing that hammer candle. I'm just looking at this trend. Doesn't even have to be here. It could be more immediate. Just these consecutive lower high points that have been forming. We could even bring on the line chart. We can see this one is up here. This one's down here. The next one's a bit lower. So this thing has been moving down. So it's like a descending triangle. Normally the support level will break on the descending triangle. It's continuing to apply pressure to the downside. So yeah, this thing does break. That's what we'll look for, break and retest. Let's go to GU next. Let's start up on the weekly time frame. And on the weekly, just from the looks of it, I've been throwing around this idea for a couple weeks now. It's just kind of been all over the place, but it's this head and shoulders pattern kind of on this weekly time frame. We did manage to get below the neck of the head and shoulders, but as we can see, price now is moving back up to test this resistance. So this is really the final kind of test for GU. You know, is the dollar going back to DXY? Is the dollar going to find support here and move back to the upside? Or is it going to continue with this overall very bearish trend the dollar has been in, just completely break this level and then just make its next move to the downside to retest these lows? You know, if the dollar starts to lose strength, gets weaker, going back to GU will most likely push up, break resistance, and then get back to these highs. But if the dollar does bounce from that area, we can certainly or easily see GU finally make its move back down to these lower levels here. So come into the 4-hour. Again, weekly, we're only looking at really two things. Where are our three things? Where's our like key level? We have one up here, one down here, so we're in the middle. And then what are our patterns? What are our candlestick analysis telling us? We can clearly see we are below this resistance right here based on how price reacted in these two areas. So now we're back in that zone. And then last week, pretty much formed this bullish candle. We do have a wick on it, but obviously there was a lot of buyers in last week. Coming down to the 4-hour, look how the final candle last week closed, or was this the first candle this week? So final candle, yeah, last week was this bearish engulfing at the resistance zone. So pretty much if I was anticipating to sell this, this could be a signal right now. This could be a trade idea to get in on right now just based on the bearish engulfing. But, you know, I don't really like that because look how price was in this downtrend. All of a sudden, we started to mess around here, and then we just had that break of this resistance. So now we have some bullish momentum here. So for me to get confident and to take a short, quite simply, I would have to see a reverse of this current trend that we're in. Probably it would probably have to move all the way down to this level. Then it would probably pull back up to retest, and then we'd get that first lower high. And the reason I'm drawing the lines here is we have this zone right here. And again, I'm not going to draw this out because I want to try to keep the charts as clean as possible. But we have this zone right here. So this is what I'm looking at. This is just simple, you know, structure, market structure. We could see some support there. That's what we would have to break first, very minor level. We'd retest the previous high, and then we'd most likely get a pullback off of that high. And then that's when we'd be looking for the first short opportunity on this one. Now, on the flip side, if this thing does manage to break this 138,800 level, that's when we're going to look to take buys on this. Even coming up to the daily, I mean, look at the daily time frame. This candle, large wick. You know, I don't want to be necessarily buying after seeing a wick like that. It's giving me, you know, this area had the same lot of wicks, ended up pushing down. So I'm really anticipating, and again, it's not just because of the wick, it's because we're at like a resistance zone as well. So I'm really anticipating this thing to reverse and to come down. We just got to wait to see something. So another idea, you know, not necessarily this week. We don't really have anything too close to execution. We just have to be pretty patient. And this is again for the swing trading. So this is nothing really intraday. So if we don't see a trade till, you know, Tuesday, Wednesday, whenever, you know, then we're not going to take the trade until that. Now, this is a position from last week. We had two ideas going on this one, and the idea that we mapped out ended up playing out pretty well. Just coming up to the weekly, we can see that we have the same concept as all the other pairs. We have the resistance up here, the support down here, and then looking at price action. Last week, we retested this level, which is what we wanted to see. That wick followed up candle bearish. So obviously momentum, very, very bearish. A lot of sellers last week. And then coming down to the 4-hour, we had been in an uptrend. We had our trend line. going right there, and then we ended up breaking the trend line. I don't love trend lines because this is like, I could have drew the trend line here, could have drew the trend line here. There's so many places to make it look better. But just for the sake of mapping it out, just because this was literally like in an uptrend and we we're waiting for the momentum to break, this thing broke the momentum. Like, I'll personally never look to set a sell limit or something just based on a trend line. I'm just more looking for the momentum to break. So the momentum broke, and then we started to get these lower highs to form right here, lower high, pushed down, came up, rejected it again. So this was ultimately where the entry signal should have been on this candle right there. Let's go ahead and fix this up. That's one entry signal. This is another entry signal that you could have gotten in on. And then you also could have gotten in on really just the wicks. Now, why would I have just started entering this like crazy? Again, because of the break momentum. Once that breaks momentum, that's my first signal. And then I'm really just waiting for rejection. So breaks momentum, here's the rejection, that wick, followed up by some sort of variation. And then this is also like a double top right here when it ended up rejecting again. And then if you even came down all the way to the lower time frame, you could map out some sort of move based on the lower time frame. We had this like break of support here, came back, but I'm just sticking to the 4-hour for the most part on these days. And then this thing ended up moving. Our target is down here. So see how price is now coming back up. This is pretty much what we want to see. Tells us the trend is changing and we want to see another lower high form. So ideally, we have price come all the way back up into this zone and retest here, and then we could get in on our second entry right there. So definitely want to watch USD CAD for this week, because this thing could present an entry as early as tomorrow, pretty much. So yeah, that's all the analysis that I have for everyone. And this week we have one thing going on, the rapid signals. It's 40% off. So if you guys, I know Nick showed one of the signals that was on from last week. We got a ton of trades going out. And if you guys are interested in getting involved, I'm just do a little scroll through of the group real quick.
Yeah, I accidentally showed a little sneak peek from the video.
So we do a video. We're starting to do a video every week where we break down some of the trades that are being taken in here. We had some of these crypto trades over the weekend, but we're going to get those out because they're kind of crazy. But as you can see here, we're starting to post the before and afters from the trades that were hit. There are about 10 signals being given out a day. So there's a lot of trades being given out. We're going to work to get those a little bit lower. We just have multiple traders that are in here and working right now. And what I would suggest for those that are purchasing the signals is literally just have some sort of strategy around them. There's signals on every single type of pair. So every single type of symbol. So you can have indices, Forex, crypto, commodities, energies. So maybe only trade the indices, maybe only trade Forex, maybe only trade gold from the signals. Don't necessarily take every single trade. And if you do it that way, you could create a sort of profitable strategy just from all of these trades that are being given out. And another way to utilize this is just as leads. So if you guys actually do trade yourself, what would be good is to line up what your ideas are. And then when a signal comes out, someone is obviously signaling to enter into the market. They're mainly intraday and swing trades, mainly swing trades. Then you guys can kind of line that up with your ideas so you guys are ready to go. So yeah, that's the rapid signals, 40% off this week. So if you want to get in, sign up inside of Telegram. And like Nick said, we'll be back Friday for we'll do the analysis review for you guys. And thanks everybody for stopping by.
Yeah. Oh yeah, guys, enjoy the rest of your weekend and happy trading.
Happy trading. Yeah, good luck everybody this week. We'll chat soon.
Peace, guys.
Peace.